I'm Vicki Shaver, and my current position is I lead the BA in Theology with Children's Ministry Specialism here at ICC, International Christian College. We began this degree about 12 years ago, and it's the only one in the country that exists, so you can get a core BA Theology degree, but with the addition of the Children's Ministry Specialism through the choice of electives. I think one of the key things has been that the shape of the church has changed. The context of the church has changed, and almost the purposes of the church has changed. I'm saying church with a capital C, rather than just the local churches here. But, for example, the church is an aging church, so more people like myself, we compose the congregations, we compose the working staff. The biggest population group is those over the age of 65. And we have a big gap of people in their middle ages. There's not very many, and if there are very few complete families of man, woman, etc. So that's a big change. Another big change has been the fact that Sunday groups, whether they were Sunday schools or such by another name, are just now no longer large for the most part. There are large ones here and there, but they're really covering children from age 3 to 15, and 15 if you're lucky. One child of each age group. So that's different. So how we're being church, and maybe that says something about what our society is like at this stage. If you would ask any member of a congregation, they would come up with something similar: to make disciples of the Lord Jesus, something like that. But in actual fact, we want it on our terms. We want it on a Sunday morning at a certain time. We want it within an hour, hour and a half. We want it to be our club, and if there's any, and club might be the word to be used, because if we don't behave in an appropriate manner for that time, we really do not want anybody that's going to be slightly different than us in that congregation, unless they bend to our way. So whether that be someone suffering from drug addiction, or has a disability, or is from a different nationality, that finds themselves here speaking maybe 3 languages and English not very well, we are making them adapt to us rather than the other way around, and going into their world. And then a third area I think that affects the church has been and this has really been since the millennium. On the one hand, there's a move for churches, local churches, to work together. But on the other hand, that works for holiday clubs, or that works for sort of midweek things. But when it comes to Sunday activities, we're a little bit hesitant. And unfortunately, children don't really see a big difference between Sunday and another day of the week. Actually, adults don't either. But it does mean we haven't really, as a church, looked at what our context for ministry is. There's probably one other change, and that is when it comes to children. I think the church in maybe the previous 20 years saw themselves as assisting the schools in the area of religious education. Now we have curriculum for excellence across the board. An excellent idea, a good curriculum, but it is based on relationship, it's based on integration of ideas, it's based on tolerance and of understanding. There's no assumption there that every child that goes through the entire system will have a clear understanding, even broadly, Christianity, let alone a specific group or denomination. So for example, this is just one true example, have asked young people, what are the 10 Commandments? They might come up with 1 or 2. But if I ask them to name the 5 precepts of Buddhism, they could come up with this. So in other words, with the system of curriculum for excellence, they're becoming very much which is good, having an understanding of other religions. The downside is it makes the assumption that they're getting Christianity in a local church or at home, and neither is usually the case. And even if they happen to be in a local church, whether that's midweek or on a Sunday, they're getting only a few minutes of teaching. So their chances of getting a full understanding of what even their own local church, let alone the broader church, is nil.